Hi guys, Cliff Olson, Doctor of Audiology and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions in Phoenix, Arizona. And in this video, I'm talking about how President Joe Biden's recent executive order could make hearing aids more affordable for millions of Americans and 5 ways that this may impact you. Coming up. On July 9th, President Joe Biden signed an executive order intended to promote competition in the American economy, and inside of it, it had 72 initiatives that impact everything from big business to agriculture and yes, even hearing healthcare. Included in this executive order is an initiative to help Americans with hearing loss save money by allowing hearing aids to be sold over the counter. Now, some of you are probably thinking, didn't President Donald Trump sign a bill into law that allowed for the sale of over-the-counter hearing aids back in 2017? And the answer to that is yes, he did. The problem is the federal government has been so slow at creating the guidelines for over-the-counter hearing aids that it has still not been released, even though it should have been back in August of 2020. But before I get into the specifics of the new executive order, if you could do me a huge favor and click the like button, it really helps out my channel and helps these videos get in front of a broader audience. That being said, I really appreciate it. Now let's go ahead and get into what the White House said about over-the-counter hearing aids. According to the whitehouse.gov website, hearing aids are so expensive that only 14% of the approximately 48 million Americans with hearing loss use them. On average, they cost more than $5,000 per pair, and those costs are often not covered by health insurance. A major driver of the expense is that consumers must get them from a doctor or a specialist, even though experts agree that medical evaluation is not necessary. Rather, this requirement serves only as red tape and a barrier to more companies selling hearing aids. The 4 largest hearing aid manufacturers now control 84% of the market. In 2017, Congress passed a bipartisan proposal to allow hearing aids to be sold over the counter. However, the Trump administration Food and Drug Administration failed to issue the necessary rules that would actually allow hearing aids to be sold over the counter, leaving millions of Americans without low-cost options. Adoption rates and affordability are definitely a big concern when it comes to hearing aids in the United States. However, the 14% adoption rate statistic that was obtained from HearingHealthFoundation.org is extremely inaccurate. When you review the actual research data, hearing aid adoption rates back in 2008 were already at 25%, and over the course of the next decade up to 2018, hearing aid adoption rates increased to 34.1%, which is over 20% higher than the statistic used by the White House. Of course, at this point, we also know that cost is not the only barrier to hearing aid adoption. This is because research also tells us that other countries that actually give free hearing aids away to their citizens are only at adoption rates about 5 to 8% higher than the United States. In Norway, the adoption rates are 42.5%. In the United Kingdom, they are 41.1%, and in Switzerland, they are 38.8%, compared to the United States that is at 34.1%. All that being said, this does not change the fact that accessibility and affordability are concerns for Americans who would otherwise treat their hearing loss if they had access to care and if they had hearing treatment that they could actually afford. So what does this executive order actually mean for individuals with hearing loss in the United States? Well, number one, it probably doesn't mean that much. In the White House fact sheet, it directs the Department of Health and Human Services, otherwise known as the HHS, to consider issuing proposed rules within 120 days for allowing hearing aids to be sold over the counter. Which in government talk is basically like them saying, hey guys, it would be kinda cool if maybe you could spend some time on those over-the-counter hearing aid guidelines, but if you're too busy, I totally get it. Just, get to it when you can. While this may actually result in over-the-counter hearing aids sooner rather than later, saying consider issuing proposed rules doesn't really inspire action if you ask me. Number 2, which is kind of an extension of number 1, which is online hearing aids have been available for ever, at least since I got in the profession back in 2012. Just ask Nuheara, ask Apple, ask Eargo, ask Bose, ask Amazon, ask eBay, and they'll all tell you yeah, we've been basically selling devices online for ever. What I'm hoping to see, though, is that this executive order actually creates guidelines for these companies that they have to function within, so individuals who have hearing loss don't end up buying devices that clearly won't be right for them. All that being said, I believe that the devices that these companies are already selling to consumers with hearing loss will be the ones that are included in over-the-counter hearing aids that you can already get. And if you're interested in any of these devices or want to check them out for yourself, I will have a link of some of them in the description below. Number 3, this executive order is only intended to benefit adults with perceived mild to moderate hearing loss, so it will have no impact on accessibility or affordability for children with hearing loss or adults that have any worse of a hearing loss than mild to moderate. Along that note, if you do have a child who has hearing loss, do not be the parent who tries to fit your child with an over-the-counter hearing aid. There are plenty of state-funded programs that can get your child hearing aids for basically free. And risking their development by using over-the-counter hearing aids is irresponsible at best and child abuse at worst. Number 4, I strongly believe that over-the-counter hearing aids will increase hearing aid adoption rates, but not just because people are buying over-the-counter devices. Much like how optometrists saw an increase in prescription eyeglass adoption rates when over-the-counter reading glasses became available, I expect to see a similar increase with prescription hearing aid adoption rates. One theory for why this phenomenon occurs is that when individuals with hearing loss attempt to use an over-the-counter hearing aid and get limited or no benefit, they naturally progress to the next level of treatment, which is seeking out professional care. While I do not expect to see hearing aid adoption rates increase immediately once over-the-counter hearing aids are made available, I do expect to see individuals over time adopt these newer technologies and eventually graduate to professional treatment. Of course, this assumes that individuals who attempt to use over-the-counter hearing aids and do not have success don't just call it quits after trying it. And the 5th way that this executive order could impact you is that while I do expect to see accessibility and affordability of hearing treatment improve, I do not expect to see prescription hearing aid treatment decline anytime soon. The sheer fact that over-the-counter hearing aids will be at a lower price point and essentially create extra competition for hearing aid clinics that sell prescription hearing aids, I don't see this having a significant impact on the cost of prescription devices, basically because a portion of the cost that you pay when you buy a prescriptive level hearing aid goes to the hearing care professional who is actually administering treatment with that particular device. Technically, it will increase competition in the hearing aid industry, but it's basically like telling someone who's looking for a Ferrari that the cost of their Ferrari is going to come down if a Ford dealership opens up across the street. However, I will say that hearing aid prices have actually been coming down significantly over the course of the past decade or so. The Hearing Journal reported in 2008 that the average cost of a single hearing aid was $2,700. If the cost of a hearing aid just stayed the same and you only adjusted it for inflation, by 2018 the cost of a single hearing aid should be $3,149. Yet, according to a survey by HearingTracker.com, the average cost of a hearing aid in 2018 was only $2,372, which is nearly $800 less, indicating that even without official over-the-counter hearing aids, hearing aid prices have actually been falling over the past decade plus. Hearing aid clinics can only reduce price so much inside of their clinic before they have to start cutting costs, which means sacrificing the level of service that they provide you. Although I do believe that over-the-counter hearing aids are going to start forcing these clinics that do not provide a high quality of care to either go out of business or force them to start following best practices so they provide you with actual additional value above and beyond what you can get from just a hearing aid alone. At the end of the day, I really am looking forward to seeing how over-the-counter hearing aids impact the overall hearing aid industry, because at this point, we've been speculating on this for 4 years now. Now, I might be wrong in some of my predictions and some of my theories behind what's going to happen with this executive order, but let's face it, I've been wrong before. In my book, anything that increases accessibility and affordability of hearing treatment and has the potential to force hearing care professionals to start following best practices is good for everybody with hearing loss, including you. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. If you liked the video, please share it. If you want to see other videos just like this one, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, feel free to check out my website, drcliffaud.com.